My HOA president fined me $500 because the wood stain from my fence was the wrong shade of brown. I showed him receipts, explained the supply shortage, begged for leniency. He smirked and said, "Rules are rules." What he didn't know was that I would spend the next 2 years quietly building a case that would destroy his reputation, his finances, and his entire life. If you've ever been pushed around by someone drunk on power and wished you could see justice done, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and get ready. Because this isn't just revenge. This is how I turned an arrogant dictator into a neighborhood punchline. When I first moved into my suburban neighborhood, I had one dream: peace. A quiet street, friendly neighbors, maybe weekend barbecues. Instead, I walked into what felt like a dictatorship. At the top of it all was Todd, our HOA president. Todd wasn't just strict, he was the worst kind of leader. The kind who loved power but hated responsibility. He strutted around like the neighborhood sheriff, fining people for trash cans left out 2 minutes too long, harassing a retired veteran because his flagpole wasn't the approved height. But if you looked at Todd's own yard, oh, it was a disaster. He had unpermitted sheds, a fence taller than city law allowed, and weeds sprouting like a jungle. But his biggest crime? Using the HOA as his personal piggy bank. My first run-in with Todd came fast. I'd built a fence, but the approved stain color wasn't available. I used the closest match and you'd have to squint to even see the difference. Todd didn't care. He slapped me with a $500 fine. I approached him with receipts, explanations, even photos of the empty shelves at Home Depot. He leaned back, smirked, and said, "Rules are rules." Then he walked away, leaving me shaking with anger. It wasn't just the money. It was the arrogance. The way he looked at me like I was beneath him. That's the moment I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream or beg or fight Todd in the street. I was going to end him methodically, legally, and in a way he'd never recover from. Todd's first mistake was underestimating me. He saw me as just another homeowner. So I volunteered for the HOA board, smiling, saying I wanted to be involved in the community. He bought it. For the next 2 years, I played the part of the eager, clueless newbie. I never challenged him publicly. Instead, I watched, took notes. I learned his tricks. He bullied board members into silence. He scheduled votes when only his allies were present. He lost paperwork submitted by homeowners who opposed him. He kept meetings intentionally boring so no one showed up. I said nothing. I just listened, nodded, and waited. Because patience is the deadliest weapon. Eventually, I noticed something strange. Our HOA fees were among the highest in the city, but the community was falling apart. The pool? Closed half the summer. The landscaping? Dead grass, weeds, broken sprinklers. The sidewalks? Cracked and crumbling. Where was the money going? Todd, of course, brushed off every question. "Don't worry," he'd say with a laugh. "I've got it under control." But he refused to show us the budget. So I filed a formal request. By law, homeowners had the right to see financial records. Todd ignored me for weeks. That's when I started knocking on doors. Turns out I wasn't alone. Dozens of neighbors had asked the same questions, only to be stonewalled. One claimed Todd used HOA funds to build a new patio at his house. Another said he saw Todd's kids swimming in the pool during its maintenance closure. The smoke was thick. I just needed to find the fire. Eventually, Todd slipped up. He was forced under HOA bylaws to provide some financial records. What he handed me was a disaster. Incomplete invoices, miscellaneous expenses, and some that were downright suspicious. One $15,000 landscaping fee, paid to a company that didn't exist. Thousands in administrative costs with no explanation. I dug deeper. Cross-referenced bank statements with county business filings. That's when I found it. Todd had been funneling HO money directly into his personal accounts. Even worse, he was working with a shady contractor, his buddy, who inflated invoices so they could split the profits. Piece by piece, I built the case. Spreadsheets, copies of checks, notarized witness statements. I put it all together in a report so ironclad it could survive a courtroom. I could have gone to the police right then, but I wanted the neighborhood to see Todd fall with their own eyes. So I waited for the annual HOA meeting. Usually only 10 people showed up. But this time, I made sure the room was packed. For weeks I walked the neighborhood knocking on doors, explaining what Todd was doing. I didn't reveal everything, just enough to make people angry and curious. The night of the meeting, the room was wall-to-wall neighbors. Todd strutted in, clearly pleased with himself. He started his usual speech about how difficult it was to manage the HOA, how much he'd sacrifice for us. I stood up. Calmly, politely, I asked him to explain a few discrepancies in the budget. His smile faltered. "This isn't the time or place," he stammered. "Oh, I think it's the perfect time," I replied. I handed out copies of my report to everyone in the room. The air changed instantly. The quiet shuffle of papers turned into murmurs. Murmurs turned into shouting. "You stole from us," one neighbor yelled. Another pointed at him. "You charged me for a violation while you were pocketing our money?" Todd tried to bang the gavel, tried to shout over the crowd, but his power was gone. I called for a vote to remove him. Nearly every hand in the room went up. By the end of the night, Todd wasn't HOA president anymore. He was just another angry homeowner. Of course I wasn't done. We hired an independent auditor to comb through the finances. They confirmed everything. Todd had embezzled more than $50,000, mismanaged tens of thousands more, and committed fraud. We filed a civil lawsuit. The police got involved. His contractor buddy? Exposed, banned from doing business in the county. Todd was forced to sell his house to pay restitution and legal fees. His name became toxic in the community. At one point, he tried to join another HOA board in a nearby town, until someone Googled him and laughed him out of the room. Meanwhile, we restructured our HOA. Term limits. Transparency. Online portals so every homeowner could see the budget. The neighborhood flourished. The pool reopened. Landscaping thrived. HOA fees dropped. And every time I walked past Todd's old house, now owned by a wonderful family, I smiled. Todd once looked me in the eye and said, "Rules are rules." Now, his rule is over. His reputation, his money, his so-called authority gone. Justice wasn't just served. It was plated, garnished, and devoured. The truth is, power without accountability always collapses. Todd thought he was untouchable. All it took was patience, persistence, and the truth to bring him down. And honestly, watching him fall was better than any fine he could have ever given me. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. What's the worst HOA horror story you've heard? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where justice is served, sometimes with a little extra seasoning.